It is October of 2020. Somewhere in the broiling heat of northern Broward County, Florida, a convoy of federal vehicles pulls up to the edge of a massive landfill, Monarch Hill. More than a dozen FBI agents in protective gear begin spreading out across a section of the dump, while excavators and heavy equipment are brought in. Workers who see this stop what they are doing. Nobody has told them what they are looking for exactly, but the agents know. They are looking for what is left of a 21-year-old mother named Leila Cavett. She has been missing for more than 2 months. Her 2-year-old son Kamdyn is alive. He is safe with family. But Leila is gone, and the FBI believes her body ended up here, somewhere beneath thousands of tons of refuse in the South Florida sun. Agents dig, they search, they go through it all, and they find nothing. But the investigation is far from over. This is the story of a young mother who drove toward a new beginning and vanished. A man with a dark past and a stranger story. A multi-state federal hunt that shook law enforcement across 3 states. And a little boy who went to sleep in the arms of his mother and woke up alone in a parking lot. Leila Cavett's body has never been found. But the truth of what happened to her is slowly, painstakingly coming to light. Before Leila Cavett was a missing person report, before she was a face on FBI posters, before her name appeared in federal court filings, she was a daughter, a sister, and more than anything else, she was a mother. She was born and raised in Jasper, Alabama, in a close-knit family that, by all accounts, adored her. Her father, Curtis Cavett, spoke of her the way fathers speak of daughters they are genuinely proud of. Her sister, Gina Lewis, was one of her closest confidants. These were not distant relationships. They were the kind of family that called each other on video chat just to see a face, just to check in, just because. At the time she disappeared, Leila was 21 years old and living in Dawsonville, Georgia, about an hour north of Atlanta. She had moved there to build something for herself and her son. Kamdyn was just 2 years old. He was, by every account from everyone who knew her, the center of Leila's universe. She worked at Dunkin' to support them both. It was not glamorous work, but Leila was not asking for glamour. She was asking for stability, for a life that was her own, for a future she could give her child. On July 17th of 2020, Leila made a video call to her sister. They talked for nearly an hour. Gina said everything seemed completely normal. Leila was fine, happy. There was nothing in that conversation to suggest anything was wrong. No worry in her voice, no sign that within 8 days she would be gone. That phone call is the last time Gina Lewis would have a real conversation with her sister. On July 24th, 2020, Leila loaded up her white Chevy Silverado 3500 pickup truck and drove south with Kamdyn strapped in beside her. The truck had a red tailgate. A baby on board sign was visible in the passenger window. She left Dawsonville without telling her family where she was going or why. That is what makes this case so strange from the very beginning. Leila had no known connections to South Florida, no friends there, no family. Her sister later told reporters she had no idea why Leila would go to Florida. Her father agreed. None of it made sense, but investigators would eventually piece together where Leila was headed and who she was going to meet. She stopped at a Cracker Barrel in Vero Beach, Florida that evening. Surveillance cameras inside the restaurant captured her and Kamdyn. Nothing unusual. A young mother and her toddler halfway through a long drive. The next day, July 25th, Leila and Kamdyn arrived in Hollywood, Florida. At 2:20 in the afternoon, surveillance cameras at a racetrack gas station on Hollywood Boulevard caught her pulling the white Silverado into the parking lot. She parked behind a silver Lexus with a missing front end. The man in that Lexus was Shannon Ryan. Ryan was 38 years old. He described himself publicly as a witch, a chakra master, a spiritual teacher. His Facebook page, called Magnetic Kundalini, advertised witchcraft lessons for $100 a session. He was from Muscle Shoals, Alabama. He claimed to have known Leila since early 2019, when he said she showed up at his home in the middle of the night with her infant son, said her car had broken down and needed a place to stay. Ryan told investigators she stayed with him for 2 months. He said he taught her witchcraft during that time. The FBI would later say something very different about why Leila made the trip to South Florida. According to federal investigators, Leila did not travel to Florida to sell Ryan her truck. She traveled to Hollywood to become Shannon Ryan's apprentice. Whatever that arrangement looked like, Leila believed she was walking into an opportunity. A new chapter. She had no idea what was coming. Surveillance footage from the racetrack captured the moment she and Ryan interacted in the parking lot. Ryan gestured in the direction of a nearby Walmart. Leila followed his car in her truck. They parked. Then the two of them, along with Kamdyn, got into Ryan's gold Lexus and drove away. That was at approximately 2:20 in the afternoon. The FBI would later release footage of Leila inside the racetrack at 3 p.m. and again at 10:20 p.m. In the earlier clip, she is with Kamdyn. In the later one, she is alone. She appears calm. She has her phone. She is alive. That 10:20 p.m. clip is the last confirmed footage of Leila Cavett in existence. The morning of July 26, 2020. A woman named Ebony Williams was heading to a store in the Miramar neighborhood when she heard something. A baby crying. She looked over, and there, in the parking lot of an apartment complex on Southwest 68th Avenue, was a little boy, toddling, barefoot, wearing nothing but a t-shirt and a soiled diaper, alone. She walked over to him. He was crying hard. Ebony Williams picked up her phone and called the police. When officers arrived, the boy could not tell them much. He was 2 years old. His name, they would later learn, was Kamdyn. He was Leila Cavett's son. He had no visible injuries, but his mother was nowhere. And there was no explanation for how a 2-year-old came to be standing alone in a parking lot at dawn. Cell tower data reviewed by investigators placed Shannon Ryan's phone in the vicinity of that apartment complex around the time Kamdyn was found there. Surveillance footage from the complex captured a Honda sedan in the area shortly before the boy was discovered. Leila's father, Curtis Cavett, would later see his grandson's image on social media. He contacted police. Kamdyn was his daughter's son. That was how her family found out something had gone terribly wrong. Curtis and Gina flew to South Florida to help search for Leila. They found no trace of her. On July 28th, 2 days after Kamdyn was found alone, Leila's white Silverado turned up in the parking lot of a Hollywood Walmart. The truck was near the same racetrack gas station where she had last been seen, but Leila was not with it, and Shannon Ryan, the last known person to see her alive, was. Investigators began building their case fast. Surveillance footage from the racetrack gas station told a very different story than the one Shannon Ryan was telling. Ryan told investigators he had last seen Leila on the night of July 25th at the gas station. He claimed she and Kamdyn left with a group of other men in a dark sedan around 2:30 in the morning. He said he watched them drive away. He said that was the last he saw of them. But surveillance video from the gas station showed no such thing. There was no dark sedan. There was no group of men. Police reviewed the footage carefully. Ryan's version of events had no support anywhere in the camera record. What the cameras did show was something else entirely. On July 26th, the morning after Leila disappeared, Shannon Ryan returned to the racetrack. He was recorded going back and forth between Leila's white pickup truck and the dumpster, multiple trips. A gas station employee noticed him. The employee later remembered something specific about one of those trips. Ryan was dragging a large object wrapped in black garbage bags from the truck to the dumpster. He was also seen throwing away what investigators later described as bloody towels. That same morning, Ryan drove to a nearby Walmart. He used Leila's debit card to make purchases. The items he bought included extra-large black garbage bags, carpet deodorizer, duct tape, and odor eliminator. A search of his phone found a Google search that federal investigators would later describe in court documents. The search read, "Does bleach and alcohol make chloroform?" Ryan had also visited the Hollywood City Waste Management website the same period, specifically looking up the commercial trash pickup schedule for the area. A gas station employee told investigators that on or around July 26th, they noticed children's toys and women's clothing inside the racetrack dumpster. The employee recognized a specific item. A pair of floral pants, visible in photographs of Leila Cavett. The FBI was now fully in the case. On August 16, 2020, the U.S. Marshals Service arrested Shannon Ryan. He was charged with kidnapping Leila's son with intent to collect a ransom, reward, or other benefit, and lying to federal officers. Ryan appeared in federal court in Fort Lauderdale. Prosecutors asked that he remain behind bars. A federal judge agreed. In court, the judge called Ryan a danger to the community and a flight risk. Prosecutors noted that Ryan was effectively homeless, had no ties to South Florida, and no verified permanent address. Ryan pled not guilty. Before his arrest, Ryan had done something that law enforcement found notable. He posted a nearly hour-long video on his Facebook page. The video was titled, "Who is Leila Cavett and what is my connection to her disappearance?" In it, Ryan described his history with Leila, presented himself as innocent, and called Leila a, quote, manipulative thief who wasted his time and hustled him. He said he had committed crimes in his past, but had transformed himself. He described himself as a god. Investigators reviewed the video carefully. They found that much of what Ryan said did not align with the physical evidence, the surveillance footage, or the cell data they had already collected. The FBI offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to Leila's location. Special Agent in charge, George Pirro, released a statement. "We are still relentlessly investigating the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. Any information, no matter how seemingly insignificant, may be important to finding Leila." Leila's mother, Tina Kirby, told reporters that the FBI had informed her that her daughter was dead. Agents had asked Kirby for her DNA. They needed it to analyze apparent blood found on tools recovered during the investigation. Leila's father was direct in his grief and his fury. He looked into cameras and spoke directly to the man sitting in the Broward County Jail. "You took something that was really precious to me," Curtis Cavett said. "You stole something from me. You looked at my child and knew what you were going to do to her. You stole my child and you will suffer for what you did." By late September of 2020, investigators had traced the likely destination of the garbage bags Ryan dumped at the racetrack on July 26th. The commercial trash collected from that dumpster on the morning Ryan had specifically looked up would have been hauled to a specific facility, Monarch Hill Landfill, on Wiles Road in northern Broward County. On October 1st, the FBI set up at the landfill more than a dozen agents in protective gear, multiple heavy excavators, a series of tents. They began digging through a designated section. Workers at the landfill were instructed to cooperate. By the time the FBI got to the landfill, the material from that dumpster had been buried and compressed under months of additional waste. The task was enormous. Agents went through it systematically, day after day. News cameras captured the operation from outside the perimeter. They found nothing that led to Leila, but the investigation did not stop. This was a sign of how seriously law enforcement was treating this case, not a sign that they were giving up. Investigators continued working other angles, building the evidentiary file, tracking Ryan's movements, his phone, his purchases, every piece of surveillance footage they could recover from the days surrounding Leila's disappearance. Ryan, meanwhile, sat in Broward County Jail, insisting he was innocent. In April of 2021, federal prosecutors made a decision that troubled some observers. They dropped the kidnapping charge against Shannon Ryan. The move did not mean investigators believed Ryan was innocent. Federal prosecutors and state prosecutors operate independently, and the decision reflected a shift in legal strategy rather than a change in the evidence. The state of Florida was now taking the lead. Ryan was booked into Broward County Jail on a charge of child neglect without great bodily harm stemming from Kamdyn's abandonment. He remained in custody. Then came May 12, 2021. The Hollywood Police Department announced new charges. Shannon Ryan was now charged with second-degree murder in the disappearance of Leila Cavett. He was also charged with tampering with physical evidence. A judge ordered him held without bond. Ryan was arraigned in late May. He pled not guilty to all charges. His arrest report, released publicly, contained details that painted a stark picture of the evidence against him. It documented the surveillance footage, the garbage bags, the bloody towels, the Walmart purchases the morning after Leila vanished, the chloroform search, the waste management website visit, the debit card use, and something else. According to the report, Ryan had posted multiple Facebook videos after his initial arrest in which he described his relationship and interactions with Leila Cavett. In those videos, investigators noted, Ryan had referred to Leila as a manipulative thief. The arrest report also noted a critical fact for any prosecutor preparing a murder case. Leila Cavett's body had never been found. That detail would loom over everything that followed. What followed was something the Cavett family would describe as an agonizing series of delays. A trial date was set, then postponed, then set again, then delayed again. In May of 2023, trial was scheduled to begin in August, but Ryan's attorneys requested an extension. The August date was pushed. Pre-trial hearings were scheduled for November of 2023, with virtual depositions set for December. As of the last documented court activity in late 2023, Ryan's trial date had been moved multiple times. The case against him was built almost entirely on circumstantial evidence because Leila's body had never been recovered. That made the prosecution more complex, more layered, and more dependent on the physical and digital evidence investigators had assembled. Prosecuting a murder without a body is not impossible. It has been done before, but it demands a near-complete picture of the evidence, and it demands that every piece of that picture hold up in court. Law enforcement believed they had that picture. Investigators believed the evidence was clear, but Ryan's defense had time, and in a case this complex, time cuts both ways. Throughout all of this, the people who carried the heaviest weight were the ones who never appeared in those surveillance tapes, the ones who never made a Facebook video proclaiming their innocence, the ones who just lived with the absence. Curtis Cavett waited for answers about his daughter. He spoke publicly when he had the chance, when cameras showed up, when there was any opportunity to remind the world that Leila was real, that she existed, that she mattered beyond the investigation. Gina Lewis, Leila's sister, thought about that last video call, an hour on the phone, everything normal, nothing wrong, and then silence. Tina Kirby, Leila's mother, gave her DNA to federal agents so they could check it against blood found during the investigation. And Kamdyn, the little boy who was found barefoot in a parking lot at dawn, the little boy who could not explain to anyone what he had seen or where his mother had gone. He was raised by Leila's family in Alabama. He was surrounded by people who loved him, people who made sure he knew, as much as a child can know, that his mother loved him more than anything. Kamdyn Cavett grew up in the shadow of a case that has never been closed, in the shadow of a mother who has never been found. If you think about the chain of events in this story, the thing that stands out most is not the evidence. It is not the chloroform search or the garbage bags or the bloody towels. It is a 2-year-old boy standing alone in a parking lot, crying, not understanding why the person he depended on more than anyone in the world was not there. That image does not go away. Here is what investigators have established as fact in this case. Leila Cavett drove from Dawsonville, Georgia to Hollywood, Florida on July 24th and 25th of 2020. She was accompanied by her 2-year-old son, Kamdyn. Shannon Ryan was the last person confirmed to have seen Leila alive. Surveillance footage places her in his vehicle. Her phone connected to the racetrack Wi-Fi for an iCloud backup at 11:20 p.m. on July 25th. After that, there is no further phone activity from Leila. Ryan's explanation that Leila left in a dark sedan with a group of men was contradicted by surveillance footage. No such departure is on camera. Ryan used Leila's debit card at a Walmart the morning after her disappearance. He purchased extra-large garbage bags, carpet deodorizer, and duct tape. Ryan was observed at the racetrack dumpster with large black garbage bags. Bloody towels were placed in a trash can. A gas station employee identified floral pants in that dumpster that matched what Leila had been wearing. Ryan searched for information on how to make chloroform. He looked up trash collection schedules. Ryan's phone placed him at the apartment complex where Kamdyn was abandoned. Authorities searched the Monarch Hill landfill for days. Multiple law enforcement agencies from Georgia, Alabama, and Florida cooperated across state lines in the investigation. The FBI's Miami field office drove the federal case. Local Hollywood police built the state case. Shannon Ryan has been charged with second-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and child neglect. He has pled not guilty to all charges. He has not been convicted. Legally, as of the most recent available court records, he remains in custody, awaiting trial. Leila Cavett's body has never been found. Her murder has not been proven in a court of law. But those who knew her and those who investigated her disappearance believe they know what happened at a gas station in Hollywood, Florida, on the night of July 25th, 2020. There is a version of this story where Shannon Ryan goes to trial and the jury gets to decide, where the evidence is laid out in a Broward County courtroom piece by piece, where Leila's father sits in a gallery and watches, where Kamdyn, who was 2 years old when he was found alone in a parking lot, is old enough by now to understand some of what is being said. There is a version of this story where justice finds a form that families can hold on to, but there is also the part that no verdict changes. Leila Cavett is gone. Her body is somewhere that investigators have not been able to reach. Her son will grow up knowing her only through photographs and the memories of people who loved her. Her father said it simply, and he said it directly. "You stole my child." Leila Cavett was 21 years old. She worked at Dunkin' to take care of her son. She had a tattoo of his name on her right arm, Kamdyn. She had a Jesus fish on her wrist. She made a video call to her sister a week before she disappeared, and they talked for an hour about nothing in particular because that is what you do when you love someone and they are fine. She was not supposed to disappear. No one is, but the world she drove into on July 24th, 2020 had something waiting for her that she could not have known about. and the people who loved her most have spent every day since then trying to understand how a young woman and a little boy drove into South Florida and only one of them came back out. If you have any information about the whereabouts of Leila Cavett or about the events surrounding her disappearance in Hollywood, Florida in July of 2020, contact the Hollywood Police Department at 954-764-4357 or contact Broward Crime Stoppers at browardcrimestoppers.org. Leila's family has not given up. The investigators who worked this case have not given up. And the little boy with his mother's name tattooed on her arm is growing up in a world that owes him an answer.